And then we've got easy, which is how difficult do you make it for someone to comprehend? Now, I'll give you two versions of this, a little bit more advanced. Well, if you want people, like you will be more persuasive based on how well your target audience can understand you. So there's a reason that I speak in a third grade reading level to the greatest degree possible. It's because I can be more persuasive because a higher percentage of the population understands what I'm saying. Now, if you speak to an audience of, let's say, crochet people who knit, I may use analogies that would be about knitting to illustrate a point because it's something they understand. And so the more we can pre-digest the food, the more we can chew it up for them and then just give them just the nugs. We can pan the gold, we can pan the sand for the gold and then just give them the gold. The more we can pre-digest it, the more valuable it becomes. So many of you have zero aspirational outcomes, not because you haven't done it, because you don't talk about it. And you have zero aspirational effort, not because you aren't working hard, because no one knows. The whole thing here is it's about the perception of your audience. So until they perceive it to be true, it's just as good as if it weren't. And so I hear this as this continuous talk track when I do the school days and things like that. Like, people don't respect all this work that I put in. And I'm like, you didn't tell them. How would they know? And so we want to integrate that stuff in. You weave it into either what you're talking about inside the content or what you have around content. So there's a reason that my origin story is in the YouTube description of every video, because people are naturally asking, who is this guy? And so I just give my life story. Now, the reason I give it exactly like that is because it was the #1 performing LinkedIn post that I had over the last year. And I said, well, if it worked on LinkedIn, I might as well put it as my description, right? It also doubles as an autobiography. And so it gave people a fast track of relevance for me and why I might be an authority within a particular space. And so now we covered aspirational outcomes. We covered aspirational effort. We talked about increments versus order of magnitude. This is a way to increase the order of magnitude, way more traffic that would come to you based on the content. Okay, so the next one is pre versus post. So with this contextual foundation that we just laid, is we have to talk about stuff, we make it valuable, we have to make the value happen in the way that I just outlined. Then what we need to do is make sure we have basically as little of everything else inside the content as possible, and clearly state that at the beginning. And the only way that you're going to do this is if you work more before you start a video or before you make a post on LinkedIn or X or whatever. And so the easiest way to do this is look at other types of high-performing content that exists on that platform and say, is there versions of this that I can model using my story? Because there are going to be formats, there are going to be packaging concepts that tend to perform better. And so all we do is we take that packaging or structure and we apply it to our truth, our reality, our history, our demonstration of expertise. And then that's what merges you outside of the platform with what works inside of the platform. And then you'll get more views, more shares, more leads, more traffic, right? And so the final question that I will leave you with is, what would it take? It's probably my single favorite question of all time, which is a pretty bold thing to say. It's probably my favorite question of all time, because what would it take assumes success. So if I said, what would it take for you to 10x your audience? You will then start answering that question. And then you get to see if the resources required to answer that question are under your control. And if you have access to those resources, then the question is there anything that you could do that would more than 10x your business given those resources? If the answer is no, then you should redeploy those resources towards 10xing your business and using it in the way that you just solved. And so for many of you, if, like, I know Evelyn talked about this, she's like, well, when I win the 100, that would be something that would be very good for my brand, for my reputation. Yes. And so she's deploying all of her resources into winning that title. And so many